Yo, what's up, guys? Welcome into Stack and Dubs, where the Warriors take game one against the Houston Rockets, end up winning 95-85 in a game where the Warriors proved that a little bit of experience, a little bit of veteran savvy in the clutch time of games, just after giving up a very, very large run. I think it was a minus 22, minus 23 run over the course of the third and fourth quarters. But the Warriors are able to dig in, able to hang their hat on their defense, able to hang their hat on the star power of Jimmy Butler and Steph Curry, and basically just ride the veterans, ride just the calmness and the ability to right the ship after things start going bad, and you feel like, hey man, you were up 23, I think, at one point in this, and the Rockets got to within 3 points. But again, that's where that veteran experience, guys like Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler, Draymond Green, Steve Kerr as well, they don't panic, they don't freak out, they just rely on good defense, making good decisions, taking care of the ball late, and really just, yeah, again, just forcing the Rockets into tough shots. And then on the flip side, getting out and running, getting and fighting for reboundings, which is a huge storyline in this. But again, the Warriors just kind of down the stretch, when I think the lead had been cut to three, find a few buckets. Steph with a huge three to kind of give it a little bit of separation up to about seven. And then the Warriors start battling for rebounds, come up with a 50-50 ball on the defensive end for a stop. Miss, I forget who missed it, but Pods follows in for a flying just tip off the backboard, keeping the play alive, just hustling and really just doing what he does on the offensive side, just to get you extra possessions. Ball ends up in Draymond Green's hands for a bucket, which I think extended the lead to 5 or 6 at that point. And then, as you know, a little bit later, Moody hits an open three in the corner, which was a huge sight to see. We've been talking so much about how the supplementary players, Moody, Pajemski, Draymond, as scorers in that closing lineup, somebody has to step up. We know that Steph and Jimmy are going to get us there, and most of the time they're going to get you over the line. But sometimes, if you have an open shot, you have to have the confidence to step up and hit that shot. Moody did it. Pajemski found a way to get to the hoop again for a layup on a blow by. I forget who was guarding him, but it was also a big point when the game was to push it to 9 at that point and basically put it away. Jimmy had a nice putback, a nice midi. So in those final times, the Warriors found good shots, they found extra possessions, and they found scoring outside of Steph Curry, which will, serve a lot, where Steph doesn't have to gas himself out in game one just to get us over the finish line. But let's not get this twisted. The clutch time experience was extremely important, and definitely shown more so when the Rockets inexperienced get good looks down the stretch. But that leads me to just this Warriors defense. This Warriors defense was the story in this. 85 points of the Rockets a season low for them. I think the first half, the Warriors held the Rockets. I forget how much they had, but season low for the Warriors. Only 30, I think it was only 34 points in that first half, which is crazy. And just the Warriors, everything, nothing was easy. The only thing the Rockets really found success with was Şengün, and he finished, let's see here, 26 points, 11 to 18 from the field. But if that's the only thing that they had going for them, then you will live with that. Rockets only had, I think, like 6 threes in the game. They shot 39% from the field, and it wasn't like they were just missing a ton of open shots. So though there definitely were a few of those, it was very much the Warriors forcing them and just putting them in tough situations, kind of switching in and out of a zone, from trapping occasionally, and more or less just relying on your back end defense to rotate, to close out to shooters, and just make life tough on the Rockets and close out enough possessions with rebounds. I would not. I would like to not see it. What was it? Was 22 offensive rebounds or something like that that the Rockets have? Maybe trim that down a little bit, and this game becomes a much bigger blowout than it could have been, than it should have been. But again, the defense, phenomenal. And I mean, I think it's starting time to ask the question, is Jimmy and Draymond perhaps the best 1-2 defensive tandem in the league or in the playoffs remaining? I mean, sure, there's good defensive players, but just the synergy between the two, the way they work together, both as off-ball defenders primarily, both can obviously play and switch amongst anybody and guard the ball in isolation. Both are great rebounders, and more than anything else, both are just extremely intelligent on the defensive side of the ball. And I don't know if you have that in any other defensive pairing across the NBA. It's maybe before you could have told me like a locked in, fresh LeBron James with Anthony Davis, but that's no longer the case. I mean, Jaylen Brown and Derek White, and I guess the Celtics have good defenders, but we've been saying it, man. The Warriors have just two lions, two dogs, and then you throw in, a little bit of GP2 occasionally, and then you get some disruptiveness from Pods, from Moody, and I gotta say, Steph Curry played great defense tonight. Playoff Steph defense, you can say what you want. There's definitely times where he's just oversized, but his defense has always been good enough to be championship level and championship winning defense. Teams try to isolate him, and he more or less exceeds what you would expect from a field goal percentage standpoint. Could hold up long enough where help can come, and that's a big credit to Draymond Green and the Warriors around him. But Steph's always held up. Credit to how strong he is, and he can guard up, a few pounds. Gets beat by some of the quicker guards, but again, when you have, you're letting your defense work behind you, and you're just not fouling, you're not just giving up easy points at the bucket, and it's always just held up enough to the point where, I know it's the biggest knock that his haters can put on him is that, oh yeah, his defense is the reason why he's not a top ABC in the GOAT conversation. But if you really think about it, like when has Steph ever been exposed in a playoff or a final situation where you almost just say he needs to be out of the game, or the other team scores 4 or 5, 6 points, baskets in a row? It hasn't really happened, and he's always been fine and not quite the liability that it takes to lose a series. So hats off to Steph, underrated defender. Again, I think just holds up and definitely does not discredit in the eyes of haters like they think it probably should. Let's see. Well, true storyline of this one offensively for the Warriors is just Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler, 25 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists, 5 steals. Just clear cut, alpha type superstar player performance, would be an alpha on almost every other team. I mean, is it time to ask the question, in addition to being one of the best tandems on defense with Draymond Green in the league, I mean, is he the best number two in the NBA other than maybe the Lakers with Luka or LeBron, however you want to look at that at the moment? You can make the case. I mean, looking at how Luka got exposed by the Timberwolves yesterday, that I don't, Jimmy's a better number two, depending on who your number one is. I mean, Jimmy just does everything. He's honestly like a poor man's LeBron, does everything well, athletic, intelligent. Only thing he doesn't do as well as LeBron is just scoring ability. Jimmy's probably honestly, as far as like the elites of the league go, he's probably a B plus scorer, low 20s. I think he's like a 22, 21, 22 point scorer throughout his career. In his prime, call it 24 points. Not what an elite level scorer that LeBron is, but in terms of making his team better, fill in defensive gaps and just intelligence and just the leadership and physicality and athleticism. I mean, call it a poor man's LeBron, but that poor man's LeBron is, probably the best number two in the league, which leads me to my next question. Is Jimmy and Steph the best 1-2 punch? And I guess we're just comparing this to the Lakers with LeBron and Luka. But which 1-2 punch would you rather have at this point in the playoffs? You can make an argument for both. I think you know where my allegiances lie. I would rather have Steph and Jimmy because what they give you on both ends of the court. And we just see how much, especially with Draymond Green as your number three, you just see how much it elevates the rest of the team at a championship level. So we'll see how much more, but Jimmy really seems to have turned it on to, and playoff Jimmy is a thing. Draymond Green said it on his podcast, but he's just a completely different player. He turns it on and you're going to get, I don't know, call it a +8, +9 per game in terms of just net points from a regular season Jimmy Butler to playoff Jimmy Butler. Logged, I think, 42 minutes, 41. Let's see, where is he? What was he? Steph logged 40 minutes. Yeah, Jimmy Butler, 42 minutes in this. And that's what you can get. And credit to Steve Kerr that coming off this 4-day break, knowing that you have a 2 day break after this. I had hoped that this game would kind of get out of hand a little earlier. We can get even more rest. But because of that, you're able to play Steph back to kind of his normal rotation of playing the full first quarter. And then I think he played the entire fourth as well. Jimmy Butler, I believe, played the entire fourth. Draymond Green, 37 minutes. Pajemski played 35 minutes. So you're really just able to get your horses and your best players out there and really just know that you needed. And once you're at the lead, you're committed to going and getting game one. So did what we had to do, played the minutes, but got the win to show for it. Speaking of Steph, a great game for Steph. I mean, it's almost not even amazing, but it's a 31 point game where he just goes 5 and 9 from three, 12 and 19 from the field. Again, played great defense, hit a couple just wild shots, kind of just off balance to his right. I would be hard pressed, to say anyone's better shooting off balance to his shooting side hand with the right, where you basically have to kind of step back off that right leg and you're just all off balanced. You're not square. And Steph hits that like you saw against France in the gold medal game for night. That he hits that at a higher percentage shot than you would ever think anyone would hit it. Damian Lillard also good to his strong hand side, but Steph Curry, never ceases to wow. But again, it wasn't like a super loud 31 points. It was just very efficient. It was great to see him finishing at the hoop. I've talked about it all season long. Steph kind of finishing around the rim, especially with a few bigs in the area. You saw him mainly in the first quarters at four. His first 4 points, 4 baskets were just all very nice finishes. Good English, finishing high off the backboard, just being very creative and crafty and finding ways to finish inside. And that's when Steph is at his best. Got off to a slow shooting start. I think he was 0 for his first three. And then you see, he catches top of the circle there, and instead of just looking for a shot, he's almost catching on the move, cutting to the hoop, gets inside for his first bucket. So just knows that, when things are not quite falling, you have to find ways to get to the hoop. So I thought it was great to see Steph, confident, healthy, and just looking nice and spry, finishing to the hoop. And you didn't see that last time that he faced Amen Thompson in this Rockets defense. But Curry really seemed to have much more juice in his legs than last game. Found separation and just had a great game when people were starting to anoint Amen Thompson as the Curry stopper and a DPOY candidate. Not the case. Amen Thompson didn't have a great game tonight on either side of the floor. Let's look at the Rockets since we're just talking about bad games for the Rockets here. Leading scorer Jalen Green, 3 for 15, 0 for 4 from three, 7 points. Van Vliet, 10 points on 4 for 19 from the field, 2 of 13 from three. So they're going to shoot a little bit better, but that just goes to show that, hey, the Warriors made it tough on them. Amen Thompson, 8 points. Dylan Brooks, 11 points on some that he probably shouldn't have made. And we know Şengün had a good game. But again, find ways to just kind of we said it in our preview last time, find ways to make Şengün work, find ways other than Draymond to slow him down. I thought Looney did a good enough job on him. Post played very good defense, especially in that first half. Didn't need to give us too much offensively, didn't score, but provided big minutes nevertheless, and being able to contribute outside of just shooting the three and provide spacing. So very good job for Post. And just kind of wanted to look at the somewhat concerning trend, and this is going to be the X factor for the Warriors, is finding points outside of Steph, finding points outside of Jimmy. Are they too reliant? They combined for, what was it, 56 points tonight. Number three scorer, Brandon Pajemski, 14 points. Took him 13 shots to get there, though, 5 of 13, but hit 3 threes. I thought Pajemski played a good game. He had 5 assists and 2 steals also. Took a charge, like always, but we already know that. It's extremely important for the Warriors to get that number three scorer, and I think a lot of times it's going to have to be Pajemski. It's supposed to be Jonathan Kuminga. I mean, it looks to me like this is the last we've seen of Jonathan Kuminga in this playoffs, unless we fall behind in a series and Steve Kerr just needs to, try throwing something new at the board. As long as the Warriors are up in a series, I would be surprised if you see Jonathan Kuminga, which means you're relying on Pajemski to step up as that third scorer and give you at least 13 to 15 points a game on efficient shooting. Moody's going to need to step in and fill and just at least knock down shots. Not a great game, but he did hit that big three down the stretch, 7 points. I mean, 2 of 5 from the field, 1 of 4 from three. played 28 minutes, but wasn't otherwise too impactful, but played a good defensive game. So that's why he's also in there. And then you have GP2, who's serving to be a pretty solid 6 to 9 points a game. Didn't even or hit 1 3 in this, but he's going to get a couple of those little slip screens and switches just in that action with Steph, especially if he has Şengün on him. So you're going to find him getting at least 3 or 4 attempts kind of at the rim there. Hopefully he finishes a couple, and then he's going to get an open 3 or 2 a game. So just knock one of those down, give me that 7 8 points, and we're just kind of doing it by committee with the bench. And so GP2, so he played 16 minutes. I think I like him kind of right about there, and did well enough again in his minutes. I think even though he was a team low -10, I actually thought he played pretty well. Surprise, surprise. I'm just looking at the plus minus here. Brandon Pajemski plus 17, Jimmy Butler plus 14, two highest on the squad. But yeah, so I mean, it was good to see, Moody hit a shot down the stretch. Pajemski kind of had a driving layup. It's really going to come down to getting those guys and some confidence to take and make shots down the stretch of, what's going to get higher and higher leverage games when Steph, when Jimmy get trapped or you're just late shot clock, who's going to step up, hit a shot and just be an asset on that side of the court until someone can prove that they can do it. The Warriors will, if they're going to be a limited late game offense just based around 2 players, which is sometimes enough when you build up a 24-point lead. But sometimes when you're stuck in the mud, like the Rockets and other good defensive teams will put you in, you're going to have to find outside scoring. But we're not going to talk about the run the Warriors gave up, which seems to be a recurring trend. Found a way out of it just in the nick of time. But again, able to hang their hat on the defense to get out of it. Weren't able to really rely on getting to the line, which has been their other escape out of these runs. So good to see that they were able to find it in different ways, like their defense, like some tougher rebounding, rather than relying on Jimmy to bail us out, get to the line, or Steph to just make crazy shots, which he did anyways. Okay. Well, 1-0 stole home court back already. Game two is going to be tough. Houston's going to know that they need to win. It's, it almost becomes a must win for them, figuratively. And, the Warriors are going to get the Rockets' best shot there. And you just got to, this is your chance to kind of assert dominance and just kind of keep that, that young, inexperienced doubt from the Rockets on, hey, how good are we? Are we really like a 2 seed? Do we not have a good enough alpha score? Are we not a good enough shooting team? Is it just not our year yet? Keep that bit of doubt, keep that bit of insecurity in their minds. Don't let them get out to a big lead in the second game because you're going to get their best effort, especially in that first half. Just hang around and hope to steal that game late because I figure this next game you're going to have a much tougher time scoring points against, again, a desperate Rockets defense. So we'll see how it goes, but we got 2 days to rest, which bodes well for the Warriors. Get the rest, get yourselves right, and get on to game two and find ourselves with a 2-0 lead heading back to the Bay Area. All right. If you haven't yet, for the playoff run, like, subscribe, follow this podcast. Appreciate you guys tuning in. My name is Chris Chin. I will be with you all through the playoffs, and hopefully it's a nice long run for the Warriors. Until next time, peace, love, and stacking dubs.